Hey everybody, I'm Mike. I'm the, I guess now former general manager of the LA Valiant. With me is Packing10, the new general manager, head coach, father, husband, Marine, motivator, leader of the LA Valiant. And we're here to give you guys a little bit of a look back at the 2020 season for LA Valiant, and then also a little bit of a look ahead towards the playoffs, and just some thoughts on the year as a whole. So let's just start at the beginning. Packing, like at the end
Sure.
of last season when you were interim permanent head coach forever. So I guess
Yeah.
just starting off, right? You get to the end of the season. We just missed playoffs that weekend at the homestand. We got it was a really close game against Gladiators that we like had to win, and then Shock just did the Shock things, and that wasn't fun.
That is what happened. Yeah.
That is in fact what happened. So yeah, we get into the off season, or we're going through it, and we kind of knew there was going to be some changes, but at the same time, like we didn't kind of expect the scope that we would end up undertaking it.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about that stuff when we had to go through all that?
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, for me, it was really different, right? Because we just got done with myself with negotiating like for like the new contract coming into this
Yeah.
year, uh, to be the permanent head coach, and go from there and really fall under the vision that I wanted to do. And kind of immediately, I think it was like 2 weeks after we ended up signing that contract, that's kind of when everything got uprooted and we kind of got told what the new vision was going to be, and the direction we were going in. And I was kind of depressed early on, and
Yeah.
I don't think that was much of a surprise, but I really was looking forward to what we established last year and just building upon that. And it took some time. It took some time to deal with and to cope with and to understand, like, hey, listen, like, just because things change doesn't mean we can't still be successful. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult transition to
Yeah.
say the least for that point. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, we knew there were some things that
Yeah.
we were like, all right, these players we want to try to move on, and then we were kind of expecting to have some cohesive core from last year, right? We were
Yeah.
like, all right, we'll keep a couple of these players, and then we'll build on it, right? Because we had a good showing, we made some good trades in the midseason, bringing in like Gravy Shacks. In fact, we had a good run. We obviously parted ways with Fact at the time, and then we kind of come into it. We have a good group, and we're like, okay, but that expectation changes a little bit, just given the state of things in the business. We have to adjust and make sure that we're doing
Yeah.
the right thing, not only as a team but as a business. And then we're coming into it, and we really have to come down and say, like, all right, we really need to focus fully on getting some of this younger talent. So we get into it, and it's we run open trials, and like that was a fun experience, right? We end up having, what was it, like
There's
a
over
thousand
over 1,000 applications. Yeah.
yeah, 1,000 applications, and we did triple blocks a day watching these players. And
It was
I mean,
3 blocks. It was 3 blocks concurrent, three
yeah,
times a
every day.
day, or maybe 4 blocks.
Yeah,
It was 4 blocks concurrent because there was one coach
one coach
per
per
block.
block.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it was
and
four
then
blocks concurrent, 3 blocks a day. So whatever that is,
yeah, for a couple weeks, like right
for
after.
for 2 to 3 weeks, and that was only the
Mm,
initial round. So
yeah. So we
yeah.
get through those, or we're just going through them, and I mean, like, what were your thoughts when we were going through those tryouts, like looking at the players? Like, I know obviously, like,
Yeah.
you and I both grind a shit ton, in terms of like watching the gameplay and scouting and
Yeah.
stuff. So, what were your thoughts like going through those opening tryouts?
Yeah. I was. I guess the first thing was I was very happy that it came together cohesively and we didn't have any
Mm,
issues, because I put a lot of time and effort into really making the structure and the format for which that was going to be,
mm,
and getting a lot of people that that I knew personally to help out with recording POVs. And we
mm.
we literally had, I mean, whatever it
Yeah, we
was,
had a squad.
we had
Yeah.
12 spectators per lobby, each recording someone's POV for us to go back through. It was, I mean, it was amazing, just the level of like
Mm,
logistic quality
yeah.
that it ended up being. Was I was very, very happy with that. But when it came to the identifying talent through it, I mean, it was great. You got to see so many different players from different backgrounds. Dreamer
Mm.
was one of them who
Oh
I
yeah.
never even knew who he was. And Stoop
All
comes
right.
in one of the first blocks and says, "Hey,
This
you
guy.
should
Yeah.
check this guy out. Why don't you come and spectate this one for a little bit and hop in there?" And it's like, man, we might have something here. Let's write this down, take a bit better look, and go from there. But I mean, it was a lot of hard work. I mean, obviously,
Mm.
Stoop and Reprise, and I'm not sure if Gunbo was actually there yet, but
He came in. He came in
towards
a
the
bit
tail
towards
end, right? I
like the
think.
close. Yeah, the closed
Yeah,
tryouts. We ended up
like
getting him in there.
all
Yeah.
the work that they really put in for that, and
Mm.
how really they also dealt with the same changes that we had to deal with from the
Yeah.
organizational standpoint. It was really good, and
Mm.
just to be able to see the talent from all the different regions. We actually had it regionalized, so we had the EU blocks in the morning, then we had like the NA
Yeah.
East block, and then the NA West block usually was a
Westlock.
bunch of Korean players, so that way
Right.
there wasn't any inherent ping disadvantages, and I was really happy with how it came along. And I mean the process took forever, and I mean we really didn't get any time off last year because of
Yeah.
it
Just
went from
having
the end
to
of the
scout.
season
Yeah.
right into we
Yeah.
need to continue to scout, and we need to do this because we weren't retaining many players.
Right.
And yeah, I was really pleased with how it came out, but it was definitely a hell of a lot of work. And
Mm.
um, when you see players like Dreamer come through that pipeline, and you see them be successful, and they have their moments, and they get the, I mean, it's probably something that he thought when he was signing up for was a less than 1% chance of
Yeah.
making an Overwatch League roster, let alone starting, let alone getting a
Contending.
player of
Yeah.
the
Being in
match, let alone
playoff.
being a top 10 team.
Mm.
Um, I'm sure that was a dream come true for him, and it kind of proves if you do the system right and you follow the system, then you could have success with it. Regardless of
Right.
what you
Yeah.
what you
I
have
mean,
to put in. So
yeah. It's always that process, right? Like that's really what we're all here for is getting that together. And I think we built that comprehensive process where we
yeah,
sat down, and then once we brought Gumba in later on, we had the statistics to really back up
yeah,
and kind of provide a little bit more of an argument to like who the players were. I mean, obviously, like we already signed at that point, right? We had Dreamer, we had Apply, we had Slur, then who's now Provide, who's obviously not on the
yeah.
team anymore. Um, who else? We had Shax and KSF still at that point.
I think
So
that was
we're
about
coming
it. Yeah,
together. Yeah, and that was about it. And it's like
yeah,
okay, like Apply and everyone there had performed really well in the open tryouts, and we felt like let's just move on these guys quickly.
yeah,
And then when we kind of fleshed out the rest of the roster, right, then it was like, all right, now it's the hard part. Now it's negotiating. Now it's like trying to get the rest of the talent to fill it out, right? So then we ended up getting, we kind of knew Lastro was really good in this whole process, right? Like we saw him, and then that was like,
yeah. He was even a
the
player last year that we were talking about because
yeah,
I mean, we all loved Crib, and we all really wanted Crib to be around this year as well. And
yeah,
that was a conversation I remember we had last year when it was like, we last year
if
was a
there was,
player
yeah,
that if next year we're keeping Kriv, last year's a player you could bring in, have him learn from Kriv, have him kind of integrate himself into the team, and
exactly,
and go from there. And when we had the opportunity to get him, and nobody else was really in the running, I mean that was a
yeah.
blessing. It was really a blessing for that to happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely. And then I mean we go through the rest of the tryouts. We've been doing it for a while, and like obviously, we taken the flack from the community. It's like you guys are going to be the last place team. You guys are going to be,
yeah,
you're going to be worse than Boston. It's going to be like everyone is making these changes, and it's like, nobody I think respected like what we were actually trying to accomplish. Like, we didn't come into the season saying we were going to be a playoff contention team. Like we sat there and said like, listen, here's the realistic expectations for what this roster will do. And like we knew we had talent, right? Like we knew we'd probably punch up. We just didn't know how hard we'd hit, right? And like
yeah,
the proof is in the end of the season standings where we actually like are competitive, with all those top teams. And I think a lot of that's helped by the fact that we were able to get KSP, we were able to pick up Gig to help us in the early part of the season, and then obviously getting Rain. So like we had a bunch of talent that was just like for some reason nobody's looking at these players, right? It's
yeah,
like I know you said it, and like I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Like you said it when we were in Dallas in the post game. It's like Gravy was on Mayhem, didn't give him a chance, went full Korean. Obviously, like Mayhem's doing well right now. They are a full Korean roster. Like I think Kuki and Albert have done a good job over there. But like you had talent that was already there. Shax came out of the Mayhem Academy, so Rain was on the last iteration of Mayhem.
yeah.
KSP didn't get any really didn't get any offers.
Right.
Dreamer was unknown, right?
Gravy
Like
also
all
had the
these
opportunities with the Envy, and they didn't pick him up there.
yeah, and it's just a lot of
There were
kind
just
of
a
go
lot
through
of
that
denied
offseason.
opportunities, and that was something
Yeah.
that like early in the year. And the thing is that's funny is a lot of the times I think it may have been something that was a bigger chip on the shoulder for me than it was for them, because it
Hmm.
was something that like whenever we'd be looking at these players and we'd be playing, or we played our officials, or
Hmm.
practicing against these teams and doing really well, and I'm sitting there like, I don't understand, like what the hell, like these other teams are doing.
Yeah.
Why aren't they looking? Why didn't they give these guys a chance? And like
Yeah.
like that was something that like really bothered me. And like I said, I don't know if it bothered them as much as it bothered me, because it was it was just like I don't want to say like a wake up call, but a little bit of a wake up call that like it doesn't matter what other teams think about talent. If you think you can identify talent and you think you know what that looks like, then you make, or I
Yeah.
guess you take the opportunity, you take the risk. And if you could turn that into a team, then you'll have a good shot
Yeah.
regardless of what it is. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and then we got everyone got in, and, like we started scrimming earlier, right? Like we started scrimming prior to, I think it was like November
Oh,
or
it was
something.
as
And we
soon
got
as
some
soon as we as soon
because
as we
we
had the
got
roster.
six
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
Yeah,
We did we did NA scrims, then we did Korea scrims because we had 3 players over in Korea, so
right.
we
And
were
then
50-50. Yeah.
yeah, and with those, I mean, and we were getting, I mean, we kind of got owned early on in the process, right? Like,
Oh, we got
I
dominated,
remember,
especially by the Korean
yeah,
contenders teams. Oh
yeah,
my
they
god! The first
smacked
time
us.
we played one of the first days. I think we played O2 Blast, and
Yeah, O2 or WGS, yeah, one
we
of them,
did
yeah,
not cap a point. Like it was
yeah, it
like
was,
not even 1%, and it was like, oh, okay, this is what the kind of year we're gonna be in for is okay.
yeah,
Um, but flash forward, a couple weeks of everybody putting in
yeah,
the
there was,
effort and a lot of one-on-ones, and
yeah,
um,
working,
and working really hard. And then we were playing those same teams and we were doing really well. And we were playing a lot of the Overwatch League teams in NA, and we were doing really well. And we were playing a lot of them in Korea, and we were doing really well. And it was like, oh,
yeah.
well, all right, we got something here. So
And it was like, yeah, that was like before. I mean, like we picked up Kai a little bit later in the process here, right?
yeah, and
And
him
taking
him
subs
and Shax at that
and
time were both in EU. So
yeah,
we were really primarily only playing with KSF and Apply. And then once we were able to do
once
more NA
Shax got over
scrims and
first,
stuff,
yeah,
we'd have the EU players playing the NA scrims, and then the other guys playing the Korea scrims. But once they got
yeah,
over there, then it was like we really started to see a lot of growth once we had Shax and Kai come back over, and we were able to put them on
yeah.
the heroes they're comfortable
Well,
on. So
yeah, it was funny because Kai, we didn't get Kai over like his visa. I think he got here in February,
he got here
right? He
right
got here like
before.
the
It was like
week
the week
before
before the
Dallas. Yeah,
homestand. Yeah,
yeah, he got here,
yeah.
literally just flies over, pick him up, and we're just like, all right, like here's your room, like let's get you set up, and then we practice for a few days, and we fly back
Yeah,
to
I
you know
honestly think it was like 2 or 3 days because
yeah, we weren't we were because I remember talking to you
yeah,
about it. We were just like, I was like, dude, I don't know if Kai's gonna get here in time. Like we probably we put his visa in as soon as possible, and like
yeah,
back at that time it was taking like 6 to 8 weeks, and we're like, go here, do this, like let's make sure we get him here as soon as possible. Like I'll fly him over next day. Like the second you get your visa in the mail, like come over, like we'll get you over here and
yeah,
stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think once we had the whole team together and like mostly everyone was here, it definitely changed a lot, right? Like we were getting owned, we were getting better over the course of a few months, like we're obviously developing, and then obviously like, people started being like, oh wow, like all the top teams were like, yeah, these guys are pretty good, like they're not bad, and
yeah.
then we start off, we get to Dallas, and I think that's where you really see it. We had a bit of nerves, but I think you come out and you take Dallas at their homestand the first game, and then we
Yeah.
um, you know even though we lost to Vancouver at the time, like the old runaway roster on Vancouver, like we still punch back, right? Like we had some like on. I remember that first Koth point, right? We were slugging back and forth. I think we was like 2-1 on that, and then we both like set records on Blizzard World for the
Yeah, it was
next
like back
map,
to
and
back
like
records or something. Yeah.
and then and then I remember this, like we locked, it was like Soldier Brig on Anubis for some reason. We ended up doing that, and it's like, yeah, we lost, we ended up losing that game, but at the end of the day, like you come out and it's like, okay, this team just beat Dallas, who had Decay and Doha coming in, and then
Yeah.
you're competitive with Vancouver, who was the runner-up last year. Everyone's like, that sets a statement and a tone, and then like I think that was a really good point for us, to start off the season with that momentum, right? Like we really came in kind
Yeah.
of, everyone's like, oh, okay, this is what's happening, but then kind of we all know what happens next. Spoilers, COVID happens, and all this preparation we had done in the offseason because we were ready to go to China like right after we're coming
Yeah,
back
I
from
actually was
Dallas.
in LA with you guys, like,
Yeah, you
and
were
we were
staying with
ready
us for a
because
bit.
it was like we went to Dallas, and I was supposed to. We had the flights booked to go for me from Pennsylvania to
And
Dallas,
it,
then
yeah,
Dallas to L.A., and then we were there for a couple days and leaving right to China. And then
yeah,
when we were, it was a couple, whatever it was, maybe a week before we went to Dallas. And it's like, yeah, we're probably not going to China. It's like, well, I'll still come out
yeah,
to L.A. for a little bit, but I
yeah.
mean,
Just in case, yeah, chill and
like
see the team.
we didn't really know what was going on, and
Yeah,
it's kind of a little bit weird and a little bit hard initially for for players, for staff,
mm,
for everybody, when for the
yeah,
organization, when you don't really know. It's like, oh, hey, are we going to go to China, are we not, like, what's going on? And I mean,
hmm,
we're very fortunate as just people that
yeah,
we didn't have to go there, because I mean, that was in March was when it really started to get bad, over there, I
yeah.
think. And
Hmm.
we would have been, I think we were supposed to play our first game like March 3rd or something there. So like,
Yeah, it was a bit later. Yeah, we because I remember, I was going back and forth doing all the planning for that. It's like I was like, we had a boot camp secured, we had the hotel
mhm,
secured, we had like a translator in China,
yeah,
like, and we were basically gonna do it the right. We were gonna sit there for a month. We were gonna fly out
yeah,
early. We were gonna boot camp, get adjusted. We had all this stuff lined up, ready to go, and then we're having these conversations like, listen, it's not good over there right now. Like, I don't know if it's gonna happen. And then they tried to pivot to Korea, and like that didn't really work out super well because like
and we
Korea ended
didn't
up
we
getting
didn't even
hit
have
with
the visas
cases,
either. So it was like,
and yeah, it was like we
yeah,
were back and forth. I think I filed like I'd say this year I think I filed like
yeah,
30 something visas, not including the last ones,
yeah,
right? Like, and we're looking at it, and it just becomes this, you know, then you're just not playing too. Like that's the other problem, right? Like, we practiced, we're in a good spot, like we feel like we have like a lot to go forward with, and it's like, hey, by the way, you're taking 6 to 8 weeks off. You're
yeah,
just not playing the game, period. Um, so and like we were still in the office at that point, right? Like we were all still, I know you went back home after like a week or so,
yeah,
but like we were
yeah.
still in the
Everything was
office, we're
still
still
business as
practicing.
usual. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a little harder to kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel, but for the most part, we're just like, all right, we're just gonna get ready for our next game, have a little bit of time off, like take a little bit of a breather in between, not do as many scrims, but
yeah.
then eventually we kind of get to, kind of the present day format, right? Like we're playing NA teams all the time, effectively.
Yeah, and it
Um,
started off really difficult as well, because
mhm.
when we started coming back and playing the games, there was only a select amount of teams that said, "Hey, we'll
Yeah,
still play," and that meant for us that we had to play Shock like 4 times in like 5 weeks.
right.
And you know, yeah, we won one of those games, but um, you know, if you're any team in the league and you have to play Shock 4 times in 5 weeks, you're pissed off.
Yeah,
It wasn't, it wasn't great. I mean,
yeah,
when you have the other teams, and there's still some of them going around, but it kind of is what it is in that
hmm,
sense. And we really just wanted to make sure that we were still playing, and we were still moving forward, and the players
yeah,
wanted to play, and we wanted the fans to be able to watch the games, and um, be able to provide that outlet with how everything started shutting down at that time. I mean, that was right when the NBA shut down, and
yeah,
everything else. And it was like, it was good to be able to provide an outlet, even if it was a little bit at our expense. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's kind of when things really started to get trying this
mm,
year, because it went from, we had this great system in place with all the coaches, and we had like
mm,
our great structure, very similar to what we were doing last year. And it was a very rigorous, intensive, type style, day to day routine. And
yeah,
then when COVID hit, and all that stuff kind of went to the wayside, and then we had to let go of 2 coaches, and it was just myself and Gumba, and then we weren't able to have anybody on site with them, and it
mm,
just really started, like, it kind of felt like it was a little bit of like a spiral out of control.
mm,
And all that was happening in the same time we're playing Shock in 4 out of
yeah,
6 weeks. And all that stuff, it kind of led to a little bit of a boiling point. And we really needed to identify things to change. And for me, it actually made me change the way I looked at this year a lot. And I think, and one of the reasons why we've been successful the second half of this year was really because of that fact that all of that stuff happened. And instead of kind of complaining about it, we all kind of came down together and sat down and came up with solutions for
mm,
what was going to be best, and what we were going to prioritize, if that was going to be prioritizing practicing three scrims a day and like busting our ass, or if that was going to be, hey, let's make sure like the mental health of our players is what we were
Yeah.
concerned about, and we care about that first. And if we do that, then maybe the results will come with it. And
Mm.
that's something that if you asked me last year, I would have said, "Nah, man, like you're crazy. Like we gotta just put in the effort. Like if we want to win, we gotta put in this. Like we gotta be grinding every single
Gotta
day.
work on. Yeah,
We
we
get,
gotta.
we gotta follow this. We gotta follow the system that wins. And being able to pivot to that mid season, I think I learned a lot about myself and I had a lot of growth there, especially with players like Lastro.
Hmm.
And it was. I would definitely say it wasn't the easiest of times, but
No, yeah.
we really had to work for it to make sure that everybody was in a manageable place for most of the season and in a happy place come towards the end of the season. It's great that everybody now is in a really good spot. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like taking the bumps and bruises along the way
Mhm.
to heal up for the end. So
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, like, I think we
yeah,
all, we all learned a lot. I mean, even myself, like, just delegating and responsibility, right? Because, like, I kind of ended up working across all the other teams as well, not just, with you guys. So
yeah,
it's like trying to help you guys, and then, we had to pick up, we ended up getting Unter to come in and help out as, like, Gumba transitioned to Valorant. Like, we're juggling all these pieces and
yeah.
making sure, like, the players are still kind of central to it, because, like you said, we basically started off, we're two and, what was it? We were 2-2, right? Because we had beat
We were 2-2,
Dallas. We
yeah,
lost to Vancouver. We lost to Seoul because they were still in A at the time. We
yeah.
lost to Seoul, and then we beat Shock. So we were 2-2, and it's
And then
like
they were like two
we're
and seven
good-ish.
or something.
Yeah, and then yeah, it was 2-6. I think we played
We played Shock
uh,
three more times,
Shock.
and
We played Shock.
we
Yeah,
lost one to Dallas. We shouldn't have lost.
and we lost. Yeah, the Dallas one. Like, because there's a lot of games you look at this year, and it's
Yeah,
like we get down to the wire, and it's like that's what did it. And like, granted, we had our fair share of games that we probably shouldn't have won, right? Like that we happened to
yeah.
squeak out, which is like that's the nature of the sport. But like, oh, and then we lost one to Glads, right? It was the dishonest
We lost two game
comp one.
five. It was two or
Yeah,
it
two
was two
game
game
fives,
fives,
map
I
fives
believe.
to
Yeah,
Glads.
yeah, because
Yeah, because
it
yeah,
was Dallas, and then I think it was back to back Dallas and Glads, and we lost
yeah,
both of those. Game five, map five. Yeah,
right. And then at that point, I remember like then we go into and it's Atlanta, right? Like that's the real, I guess,
yeah,
like turning point. Which, funny enough, that was actually our first win last year when we were 0-8.
yeah.
Kind of the same
Well,
story. But that was
me
our
in Atlanta.
Yeah, you just have a thing with Atlanta. And again, map five too. Like
Yeah.
it goes down to map five. We're on the point, and basically it's like, you know, Kai comes in like because we had played the Echo with Apply, and like Apply was doing all right, but it was just something was missing a little in that, and once we get Kai back in on the Ash and the Widow, right? Like he kind of took over that, and we put
Well, the
get the
interesting
win.
thing
Yeah,
about that time as well was that was the time when KSF and Apply were kind of they were really dealing with some stuff. A lot of a little bit of a lack of
yeah,
motivation, a little bit of frustration with the COVID stuff and not being able to go out and see their teammates and do everything.
yeah, yeah,
And that's when I had a conversation with them right before that happened of like, hey, listen, like if you guys need some time, like I'm
yeah,
more than willing to work with you guys. Like let's get you some time off. Let's get you mentally back into it, and then we could come back. And once you're back, then we can
yeah,
actually start reintegrating you back and
yeah,
and I mean, it ended up working well because KSF has been pretty clutch in the past couple weeks coming in here towards playoffs, and he stepped up when he needed to, and
right,
Apply came in and would play the Echo right after that, but or I guess right after that time, he came in and played the Echo right before we really transitioned into like the Ash comps and stuff
yeah,
like that,
right,
but I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy because like it was like we lost you know a quarter of our team essentially to
yeah,
needing to prioritize that. Hey, like we're putting mental health first. If you guys need a break, go do it. If you want, like if you can't play the game right now, we understand. But once you're
yeah. Once you're back
coming
and
back, like
yeah, yeah,
you're gonna be getting the same treatment. And you're gonna be like it's gonna be twice as hard because you need to get back up to where everybody else is at. So
yeah,
it was yeah, it was a trying time for sure, but
yeah,
especially in a lot of those weeks that we would want to play certain comps and we just we
You
didn't
just
have it
can't.
in us.
Yeah.
I mean, when we played against Paris, like when Echo came out, when we played against Paris, we were like, Kai, like you got to do it. Like there's no other option. Like you
Yeah.
just got to do it.
You
Like
got.
let's work on it. Let's figure it out. But you got to play Echo. Like that's it.
Yeah.
And it's I'm very grateful because of you know how Shax and KSP have been throughout this year. They've been extremely consistent and great learners, and they
Right.
are very open minded, and they're talented enough on so many different heroes that we really were able to make it work a lot of these weeks with with only them. But
Mm.
yeah, I mean it was nice to finally get Apply and Kyle back
Yeah.
um,
Once we had the
when they had their
opportunity.
low break. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because like I mean that's always been a big thing. Like this year, mental health for a lot of the players, not even just on our team, and like across the league has been a big issue,
yeah,
right? Like just people needing that time, and it's like when do you take it, right? And for us, like we've had a couple of occasions with a couple of different players that we just need to
yeah,
make sure that like at the end of the day, like yes, is it nice to win every game, like 100%, like but at some point if a player just doesn't have it, like forcing that issue, it's like I'm not going to take like I'll take the loss to make sure that player is in a better state because like it's not about just each individual game. It's about getting to the end of the season, making sure that you're ready for playoffs, and making sure that postseason's the goal. And like as we're looking at the season, once we're doing that, like once we had the meta favors us a bit more. We've been practicing. We kind of were a bit more creative in terms of our compositions with get the Ash Tracer out. We're playing it. And like obviously like who knew Shax was a really good Tracer player? Like I didn't know that. Not or Kai is just a robot, but we we get through that, and then we're on like a good win streak, and we kind of hit the Genji meta, and that's when we like, a little rocky there, right? Like towards because we end up playing Paris, and like if you're playing a Genji meta into
yeah. You're
Paris,
playing
it's like
Sparkle. It's
you're playing Sparkle, and he's gonna do Sparkle things, and put up
yeah, it will happen.
goat
Yeah,
stats. Yeah, so we kind of go through there, and then again we had to like kind of evaluate like, hey, our do we need to take another break? And people kind of saw that with the you had Toronto when we played in the summer showdown. We rest some of our starters because they just needed time off, and it's like
yeah,
we wanted to win. Like, of course we want to win, but at the same time, like, we're still in a good spot. We still need to make sure we're pushing forward to like make it to the end of the season. We knew there was another tournament coming. We knew that like that would be the more impactful one at the end of the season, building that momentum up. And
yeah.
overall, that's what we ended up doing. We got through the end of the season. So overall, it's like we've been able to kind of become flexible, become more creative as a team. And like
Yeah.
again, I think by this point in the conversation, it's not like, oh, Valiant are a bottom team, right? It's like, oh wow, these guys are even from earlier on with the Atlanta and the Paris games and like the melee and stuff, like the perception started to change, and it's like, well, what why now? Like, okay, we knew ahead of time like these players are good, they're talented players, like we have a good system, we have a good team, and it's like no, the process wasn't respected like until it puts up those results. But it's like that's how it's always been. It's like developing this talent, focusing on getting these the systems and players together, and
Yeah.
you know taking the chance. I mean, honestly, that's what we did. We took the chance on these guys, and we knew we had the right people to develop them. So that's where you start really reaping the rewards. And now we're in a top 5 spot. We're in the winners bracket. Like
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know
at
if
the
I
end of
saw myself here at the end
at
of
the
the
end of the day, that's like that's really what you want to ask for, right? If the league was still in the normal format, top 8 gets you automatically into the playoffs, right? So, like we did a really good job in terms of that. And there was a couple points I want to hit on first because
Yeah, go. I kind of jumped
yeah,
through
yeah, you
the
kind of
back half of
fucking
the
fast
season.
forward there a little bit, but
Yeah.
but yeah, so the summer showdown stuff with we let Lastro and Dreamer rest, like initially that wasn't even like the intention, right? It came kind of to a head at the end of the week, and
Mhm.
like it was something that I'm very very happy with, and very very proud of now that we were able to really or I guess I should say that I was really able to work with Lastro, because at that time his and my relationship were it was a little bit bumpy, And
Yeah.
you see stuff, I mean, Dallas, with the decay stuff this year. And I mean,
Mm.
it happens in any type of sport. When I mean, it happened with the Sixers, with Brett Brown and Jimmy Butler last year, when you have a coach who wants things done one way, and a player who is very talented and doesn't mind voicing his own opinion. Sometimes you kind of get into a
Yeah.
little bit of, I don't want to say problems, but um,
I mean, you're bound. You
it's,
get
it's
strong opinions. You're bound
yeah,
to.
you're bound to have a little bit of adversity in the relationship and things like that. And that kind of hit a boiling point that week. And
Mm.
he, I sat down, I talked to him, and he said that he wanted some time off, and I told him that's fine, and we'll talk it out, and we'll figure out what we need to
Mm.
do, and how we can improve, how I can improve myself to work with him, and find like
Mm.
deal with that. And him working on the shortcomings that I see. And we really
Mm.
put that effort in. And
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't an overnight thing. It took a long time
That
to get it.
because I think it was it was like that week built up, and then we ended up taking, I think, like a week off or a few days off at
Well,
least.
we
Yeah.
had like that week. Obviously, it was the end of that week when him and Dreamer asked for the rest. And then
Mm.
um then after we lost to Toronto, then we had, like, I think it was 2 weeks off. And then like it was an ongoing process. I mean, and
Mm.
in I would say it was probably early August was really when you know my relationship with Lastro really started um to bloom. And
Yeah.
it's something that I'm kind of happy that we could kind of sit down and do one of these retrospectives to give a little bit of clarity as to what was going on. But
Mm.
like it was one of those things that got. I mean, I never in my life would have thought that there. I've never had an issue like that before, that we just didn't see eye to
Mm.
eye. And there's kind of two ways to go about it. It was either put in the effort, work with him, work with Lucianal, figure out what we can do to make the relationship better, or disregard it and go, okay, well, we're giving up on this. And that's just not who I am as a person. That's not who we are as an organization. And we
Mm.
put in that effort. And now Lastro and I are best of friends, and we talk all the time. And it's
Oh yeah,
it's
you
really
guys talk
great.
all the time. Yeah,
we we
Discord is great.
yeah,
Yeah.
we really do. And it's actually outstanding that we were able to really take that approach, and put in the effort, put in that extra step, and make sure things ended in the right place, instead of saying, hey, listen, this is too hard. You know what, we
Yeah.
got a couple months left of the season, let's just can it. We put in the extra effort, and we make that happen. So that was kind of
Yeah.
point one I wanted to talk about. And the other point I wanted to talk about was really when Gunba left for Valorant. And
Mm.
obviously I also took the GM title over with that game as
Right.
well, and was directly involved with that game. And we were able to bring Unter in. And obviously he's a very green coach, coming from British Hurricanes. That was the only team he coached before. He was a former professional player in
Mm.
AU. And it was a blessing to get him in there, because not only did he have like the lightheartedness about him that
Mm.
we kind of really needed at that time, but he's a very bright and hardworking individual. It's not easy to be remote like the way it is for me, let alone
Yeah.
for him
Yeah.
to be remote, working from Australia at the wee hours of the night, to try to
Yeah.
do one-on-ones and feedbacks and and everything else. And when he got here, it was a completely new perspective. I mean, we did a little tryout for him, and then really
Yeah.
liked what we saw. And I think it was a big reason to why the success continued to happen. Because when we lost Gunba, I mean, Gunba, he's extremely hardworking, he's extremely smart. And losing someone like
Mm.
him is it's never easy.
Yeah.
But and obviously you could see what the results the Valorant team has. He's been doing a great job
Yeah.
over there as well. But being able to transition easily from someone like Gumba to someone like Unter, who like I said, provided a different perspective, and had a little bit of a different personality. Was a little bit less robotic and more more emotional, more
Empathetic, yeah.
more filled
Human.
with energy and more human in a
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good for the team, I think, and everybody loved him. And I think uh, it would be poor of me not to make sure that was mentioned of how much he's actually been a part to the success in the second. Well, I guess it was like second half of the year or so, somewhere
Yeah,
around there.
around there. Yeah,
Somewhere,
it was like because he joined right around melee time is like when we
it was like right after that, maybe
right
in that
like
break or whatever, because it was like
no, because I remember having to because he trialed I think right before that.
maybe he trialed in the tournament.
Yeah,
Was
because
that
I
maybe
remember
what
I
it
paid him.
was?
I
Yeah.
remember we cut him in for the prize share because he was like working with us and we signed him right. So it was like,
Mm.
hey, like
Hmm.
obviously you deserve this, so here you go.
Yeah.
He did good
Yeah. He did a
or
good
he did
job.
well here.
A
Thing.
very good
So
job.
yeah, I mean like it's definitely been a lot. We've leaned down our staff and the players like even with like the translator thing like that was a
Yeah.
whole to do that we kind of didn't touch on from the beginning, right? Like we were trying to get one, we couldn't get one. They had some issues early on, and then we
Yeah.
ended up getting Lucianal part time, and then eventually it was like getting him full time in and trying to have him
Yeah, I mean,
you know
this year has been a series of very unfortunate events that turn into very
yeah
fortunate events, because that was one of the
yeah
things we said going into this year was you know we want Korean players, like that is something
hmm
we want, but if we get Korean players,
like we need
we
the
need
resources,
the
yeah.
resources, and we need that, and then we were able to get Tony in,
Tony.
which the funny thing is about that is we're very fortunate because I actually went and did a public speaking event at Penn State,
Right,
um,
which is his undergrad,
which
yeah.
is where he was part of the esports program there, and that's where I went for majority of my undergrad, and um, I went there and got to talk to those people, and I started building a relationship with him, and it ended up being like a position. I was like, hey, listen, like, could you help us out here a little bit? We'll pay you some
hmm
money.
just yeah, some money.
Please, please help us out because we really need some help. And he was like, yeah, sure. Like I'll do what I can. And he came in, and then it was like, hey, listen, I know you're still going to school, but like you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Like, could you just come to like everything
Cont-
now? Like, cause like we
yeah,
finally got approved to do it like 3/4 of the way through the year. So, is that cool? And he's sure man,
sure, why
whatever.
not?
Like I'll be there. And
Yeah.
that's been it's been very helpful. Once that happened, it was really good. And
Mhm.
he's done a great job as well, and he's provided an outlet for for especially for Lastro and Rain, because they don't really speak
The
proper
best,
English,
yeah.
and he's done a really good job this year, and it's
Mm.
it's been kind of one of those things that just by coincidence of someone that I knew personally, and we're like, hey, listen, man, could we just like get a little bit of help here? It turns out into something that hopefully is great for his career for long term, and
Mm.
um, and that's exciting. It's exciting to be able to
Mm.
to be able to give people like that opportunities, and even when you're the one who needs the help, you give an opportunity and then see them do a good job in it, and hopefully continue that as a career if they enjoy that. So
Yeah. I think that's pretty much for the if we're looking at the year that we've kind of had so far. It's
yeah,
obviously it's like I think and I kind of joke about this on like a daily. It's like I wake up every day and it gets a little bit harder, which is like pretty morbid in a sense, right? But at the same time, it's like,
yeah,
but that's always what it is, right? It's like there's a new challenge that you have every day, and there's always you know you go into it expecting you're going to have a couple of returning players, you're going to build a roster that's like this, and then it's like okay, well we're gonna go down to like, the logical extreme of development and like really take those chances. Okay, like I didn't wake up planning for that, but let's just do it. Like, what's the next thing that we have to challenge? Okay, we had some visa issues, and it's like China, then COVID, and all these other
yeah,
things. Like, but there's always a new challenge, right? And I think the biggest thing is like, why are you successful? It's like because we take those challenges head on, right? We're not somebody like it's not like oh plan failed like that we're done that was it just plan A like we're like okay well what can we do with this what can we do with this there is like this kind of satisfaction when you do overcome a lot of those challenges where it's
yeah,
like it's not about just signing the perceived best players. It's about actually like building something, and then dealing with, you know, all the little things that come up in between that, little being relative in that sense. But
Yeah, and
yeah,
I think
that's yeah.
that's really the important part of, I mean, kind of just life. And this year, especially with
Yeah.
2020, is, I mean, something that that I was taught from the minute I joined the Marine Corps, and it was
I didn't know you were a Marine, as Hunter will
was
remind us every day. Yeah.
was if you don't embrace adversity, it'll kill you.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's I guess in the Marine Corps terms, that's quite literal.
Hmm.
In the day to day life, it's more metaphorical. But in a world that we're living in right now, that we've had to live for the past 6 months
Yeah,
now
six,
or
seven
so,
months. Yeah, it's getting there. Yeah.
um, it's one of those things. I mean, in the world, technically in the world that we've lived in for about a year now, when we had to embrace the decision
The change. Yeah.
from ownership of what the vision was going to be for the team. There's a lot of reasons to give up and to not give that effort, or to not be the best person you could be, or to not
Hmm.
give everything you can. And whenever you have that kind of adversity, like I said, you have the two options. It's either you embrace it and you really push through and you go, hey, it doesn't matter, like, I'm better than this, I'm bigger than this, and
Mm.
you make it work. Or you go, well, I'm just gonna give up, and you let it go from there. And as as kind of a community with with Overwatch, and
Mm.
the kind of like, I guess for us as a nation throughout the whole world, it's just like with COVID, and all this different kind of stuff that came out through the year. I mean, um it's kind of been like a little bit heartwarming to see how how well people have been, I guess, like, receptive to the fact of like helping other people and trying to solve some of these
Yeah.
problems. And especially for us as an organization, with that's one of the things that at the end of the day, I could say that I've been very happy about this year, was the amount of resources we've had, and the amount of resources we've been able to to kind of give the players, if it's myself, or you, or
Mm.
Hunter, if it's just time, or effort, or whatever the case may be, to help guide them through these times.
Yeah.
um like that's something that I think will pretty much stay with me for my entire life. And I'm like, that's one of the things I'll probably be most proud of for a long time. So
Mm. As we're kind of like being a bit prophetic here, like I think it's. I feel like we kind of covered a good part of what this year was, right? It was challenge after challenge for us. It was dealing with cultural, strategic, the actual
yeah,
personnel issues that we had to go through, and you know we realized that like the way we've approached things, like we have to be changed, we have to flexible, or we have to be flexible and we have to change, and when we get to the end of the day, it's actually you know we have a process, and like for the most, we stuck to that philosophy and that vision, and like that at the end of the day bears the fruit, like
yeah,
sticking with it and doing it. So I guess as we're looking a little bit ahead with just the time we have left, is we play on Saturday, right?
yeah,
Then we're in the postseason. So what I mean, for me, obviously, like that I'm always the pragmatic one in this
yeah,
relationship, in terms of all right, we'll play this team. Like if Shock picks us, like it's gonna be this, and we'll play in the losers bracket, we'll beat these teams, and we'll go up. So um, you know, as as I'm always gonna ask you, what do you think for playoffs? Like, how do you think we're gonna
yeah.
we're gonna do, and what's the
The only answer
I know
I
the only
give
answer for
is,
you, yeah.
it's there's only
All right,
one thing
all
that's
right, here's the better thing. Who do you think's gonna pick us? That's
um
that's the better question there.
I think likely it would be Paris that picks us. I would say is what's likely. I
Right, you
think
think Paris will pick us? You don't
I
think Shock will pick us?
um honestly, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that Philly will not.
I'd hope so.
But I think throughout this playoff meta and patch, we've had a lot of really good practice against really good teams, and
Hmm.
I think we're doing a great job. The players have been learning, on daily, and
Hmm.
realistically, we, like I said, we kind of we took that light approach to practice for a majority of the year, so that way coming into playoffs, we'd actually sit down and grind, and we put in that extra effort. And we've been making sure that there's been a lot of self review. We've been making sure that we've been popping in a couple extra scrims here and there, and we've been analyzing pretty much everything we possibly can to put ourselves in the best position to win. And come Saturday, I don't really think, in my mind, it matters who picks us. I think we have a good chance to win no matter who it is, and that's even if it's shock. We've been doing such a great job that I think we really can make waves in the playoffs. And the thing is, like I said, my goal, and I wouldn't be doing my job if my goal wasn't to win. Last year when I took over and it was 0-7, you talked to you about what the goal is. The goal is to win a championship. That's what the goal is. Same thing this year is, hey, listen, this is what our expectations organizationally are going to be. Whatever. No, that's not the goal. The goal is to win a championship. We're a professional team. We're competitive. I'm competitive. Anything less than that should be at least in my mind, should be a failure. And I think with the talent we have, with the kind of metas we're looking at, we've been able to develop KSP's hero pool even more. I think we're gonna maybe not surprise some people anymore. But I think people are going to look at our team, and at least I hope they look at our team in the playoffs and they go, and we don't, end up flopping and be a dud, and they look at our team and say, "Hey, wow, like this team's like really effing good," So, I'm really in my mind right now. The goal is for the NA side of playoffs is to be competing for top 3 to go, that top 2 spot to go to Korea. If anything less than that right now is probably going to be, in my mind, a little bit of a failure. But that's just been from based on how we've been doing and what I actually see and believe in, like how much we developed over the past 2 weeks of performing for playoffs and that kind of stuff. So
thanks everybody for joining us on our little journey through time over the past year, and hopefully we perform well in playoffs and make it over. And
if you listen to us talk for an hour, God bless.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, you listen to us talk for an hour. That's the whole thing, right? But yeah, really appreciate the whole all the fans in the community who stuck with us through this time. Like, obviously, we had no reason at the beginning of the year for anybody to believe in us, and hopefully we've done you guys.
Whoa! No reason.
No reason. Okay,
I was still here. Come on. One reason maybe, but I don't. But realistically, yeah. I mean, it is one of those things that it was a tough year for everybody. I could imagine it was a tough start of the year for the fans. But I also feel like it's probably more
a roller coaster.
I mean, yeah, that's very true. But it probably is more exciting for the fans now than it ever has been. When you don't think a team is going to be be that great, and then they end up doing really well and they're competitive with and they beat a lot of the top teams. It's it's something that people could be excited for. So
at least we're entertaining.
Amen to that.
That's it. Yeah. I'd rather be on a roller coaster than a bandwagon.
That's the truth.